See how this works on, not really sure exactly. Okay, yep, there we go. All right, so we're live on YouTube. We'll be live here on Instagram in a second, but today we're talking with one of my friends, Saranda, super interesting person, and we're going to talk about what insecurity is in the body, what we know about this, what we know about this through Western science, and then Eastern philosophy. And so we're basically just going to share like what we know, what studies we've read, what we're aware exists about this topic, and it's gonna be a very cool thing. So right now I'm gonna have to I'm waiting on her, and I'm gonna get the Instagram stream pulled up as well, make sure everything's good to go. If anybody ends up watching or hopping in the stream here on Instagram or on YouTube, hope everything's going well. And I just turned off the Xbox. I had the Xbox on that was draining some energy. But here we go. Let's do it like this. Let's go live on Instagram first. So, podcast live stream. And what I'll do here, before she's going to hop on here in a second, I'm going to share first here on the screen. Where's my Canva graphics? Yep, there we go. I got some Canva graphics. So let me share that right here. So here's the little presentation that I have on here. All right, so here we go. Boom. Here's the graphics I have to share with you guys for today. Insecurity. Ooh, the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa. All right. Mental Wealth Family. That is my school community that I'm in the process of building right now. If you know School, SKOOL, I'll be sharing a lot of powerful practices through there that are going to be kind of, cutting edge stuff, like with shadow work, with breath work, with dancing, right? With dancing. So we're going to bring that all together through mental wealth. And then Excellence Addicts is my coaching business, right? So Excellence Addicts is what I do as a personal trainer and mental health specialist. But here we go. Right now I'm going to share this presentation that I created, and then I'm going to share that as well on Instagram Live before Saranda gets in here, and then we're just going to share a lot of cool stuff. So insecurity as an emotion, it means I'm not safe. It's a self-preservation emotion. And what does it feel like? A really easy way that I like to think about it is that you can't trust the present moment. And this is very, you realize how profound, how deep this actually is when you start to get deeper into your emotional healing and your emotional intelligence process, is that you can't trust the present moment. And a lot of this has been ingrained to us by society. And, uh, and so right now I'm going to walk through that as well here on my um, on my Instagram live podcast live stream. Okay, so I'm now live. Here we go. So I got a podcast live stream. We're talking with Saranda today, one of my friends, super intelligent person who has lived in multiple countries, well versed in topics within aerospace, within technology, within breathwork. This woman knows a lot of stuff, and we're talking about insecurity. We're going to talk about what that looks like through the perspective of Western science, what that looks like in the current medicine, and then as well bridging that through the Eastern philosophies of what they know in yoga and what they know about somatic psychology as well too, in the chakras. Okay, so that's gonna be dope. So what I'm gonna do right here now on the lives, I'm gonna start going through the presentation on my camera roll. Wait, where's it at? I might have to close out of this stream really quick, come back in because I thought I had it already saved, but it looks like I didn't. So I'll be right back. Boom. This not save? Okay. All right, sorry. All right. Anyway, we live streaming. So I'm gonna run through all this again. Serrano will be hopping on in the next few minutes, and so we'll get to it. YouTube live stream, baby, all day, all night. All right, now I'm just downloading this on my Canvas so I can stream it on my phone too at the same time. Okay. All right, and we'll find out. If anybody's watching on YouTube right now, I'm gonna ask that you can let me know how the stream is going. It says my stream status is excellent right now on YouTube. No issues, so that's good news. Come on. Download it, bro. Come on. There we go. Now I got it. Now we're chilling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cancel. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so we are live streaming the podcast. My podcast is actually called Down to Earth. Right now, I am have a presentation I'm going to run you guys through. I have someone I'm interviewing or speaking with named Saranda. Fascinating person. This girl is brilliant. She has experience in aerospace and technology, lived in multiple countries, speaks multiple languages, knows a lot about, like I said, science, but also a lot of cool spiritual perspectives as well. This woman has done a lot of breathwork training. She knows a lot about astrology as well. And we're going to dive into a lot of things about insecurity today. So, right now, I'm going to go through my little presentation. I'm waiting for her to join me on Riverside FM. I'm streaming on YouTube right now as well. So, let me just run through this. So, I have this on my Instagram feed of the presentation. The topic of the podcast today is going to be insecurity. So, right there, we got Mona Lisa. We have a lot to unpack, and I'm really excited to take y'all through this. And so, what we can expect to really understand today is healing steps with insecurity, what insecurity feels like in the body, and what it actually means. Like when I think about it, it means I am not safe. It's a self preservation emotion. And, uh, and self preservation emotions are essentially what a lot of the negativity comes down to. We're just trying to make sure that we still are alive. Usually, when we're feeling a certain negative type of way, that something's not going our way, it's actually like if you want to get down to the root of it, it's because we fear that it could be the end of our life. Our life could no longer be preserved, and so insecurities is the root of a lot of what we feel negatively and resistance wise. Okay, and what that feels like to me is just like you can't trust the moment. Like you're running late, you're out of time, there's not enough time. There's not enough time. Time. Father time. The clock is ticking. You can't trust the present moment. You're wondering what time it is, what time you get done, what time you have to show up and get shit done. that's that's how I look at what this feels like. It feels like you cannot trust the present moment. All right. And this has been ingrained to us, usually through our work, through our society, that we got to stay on the clock, dude. You got to know what time you got to work, you got to show up and be there, right? And that's fair. That's fair. But what happens is we get addicted to paying attention to the clock, and it gets hard to trust the present moment. And usually leads to escapism through television, movies, or something like that, and other sorts of things. But that's okay too. But it's just important to understand what this is. Um, let's see. Now we're gonna dive into right here where it's usually felt, and this is where I'm gonna talk to Sarana because I know she understands a lot of this. Is it's felt in these zones in the body usually. Okay, and this comes from what they know in Indian Ayurvedic practices, yoga traditions, and this is now being proved, especially in Western research, that there are neuroganglia. There are lots of neurons in these zones in the body, like way more. These are centers of energy. What are neurons? Neurons are electrons, right? With a lot of passing on electronic information through the body. And,
Hello.
how you doing?
Hold on. My
Okay, no biggie, no biggie.
I
Right
can
now,
for some
still
reason always hear you through the phone and not through my headphones.
okay. All right, no biggie. So right now, yeah, once you get yours settled there, Saranda, then we can dive in. Right now, I'm just sharing a presentation on the live stream. I'm sure you can kind of see it. I don't know if you can see it before I talk deep with you, but I got a lot to unpack with you. So I'm sharing on my Instagram right now. So I'm gonna wait for Saranda's connection to clear up right here, and that'll be cool. And so we're gonna talk about what this means in the body, like I said. Um, oh, she's hopping back in, so it's all right. This is connected to that lower chakra is the root chakra. So wait, hold on, let me get back out there. So now I'm all over the place. It's all right. And this is just connected to physical security, like I said. So that's mostly what I want to talk about in this presentation right now is just dive through that really quickly and understand what that is. Yo, we got Mr. Fuck Shit up in the house, physical security. So I'm gonna focus directly on that explanation right now, and you can feel this in the pelvic floor. This is where you can usually feel a lot of insecurity right there. The pelvic floor, the bottom of the gooch. This is the gooch, is the pelvic floor. That's what the root chakra is, where you can really feel it. It's that center, basically right down there. That's right where it's at, dude. And so if you do a yoga practice or you do breathwork or meditation, you're gonna become very familiar with the feeling there. But a lot of you might already understand what that feels like. If you know what it's like, obviously, to go to the bathroom, then you know where this zone is, because these are the muscles you are relaxing when you're going to the bathroom. These are the muscles that you are squeezing when you're trying not to go to the bathroom. But this is very fundamental to the way that we operate and live every second of the day. Okay, is right here in this zone. This is physical security. So I call this is the gooch. This is why I call it the pelvic floor. Now, when I think about what that feels like, where that tension also goes down into the legs. And so when Saranda hops in, we're gonna dive into a lot of these discussions about what this looks like. But for me, I can tell you, I've noticed that I've had a very tight left groin, and so this goes back to the root. This goes back to the root, and then what they speculate, and I can certainly probably confirm from my end, is that the left is usually feminine energies and the right is masculine energies. Okay, so usually if it's overactive, that means you over rely on a certain side, and that can be masculine or feminine essence. So in my case, I've relied on too much on feminine security energies and stability. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a lot to read into that, and there's a lot of ways to unpack that. But that's basically how it's unpacked in my life. This is the way that I most likely can explain what the root chakra feels like as it leads into an indication of illness or anything like that. And so let's go into healing steps. And when I get into some healing steps, um, I'm still waiting to make sure that Saranda hasn't hopped in yet. Okay, cool. All right. So healing steps, closing the eyes, right? So it's, you can close your eyes and identify tension. So what I like to do is you can feel it probably in your feet. If you are sitting down, you can notice, do your feet feel flat on both sides? And if they do, then that's good. So you probably have good balance. But if you can notice that if you are leaning into one hip or you're feeling more pressure on one foot, then that can let you know that you have an imbalance there. If you look at the bottom of your shoes and you notice that there's too much pressure, or if one shoe sole, the sole of the shoe, like where your foot sits inside, if it's overly worn on one side, then that probably means there's a imbalance there. And so that's what happened. My left sandal split, broke in half. My right sandal was good because I was pressing a lot on that left sandal. Okay, so you can identify the tension. If you can breathe, now if I get into the next parts, breathe. Like when you, this is what you'll learn if you get into a breathwork practice. You will, I like to visualize like the air, it's not going down here, but I visualize that the air is going down there. It is going down, and you feel that in your body and relax. So obviously, if you have to go to the bathroom, make sure before you, if you're going to do a breath work or yoga session, make sure you go to the bathroom first. So that way you don't let anything go right here. Okay. And so breathe deep into this zone in your body. You will feel this. This is right between your booty hole and your other sexual organs. It's right there. Okay. You breathe through that over and over again. And then what I have noticed is that what happens in a lot of cases with breath work is that you can now pay attention to the imagery in your mind. And what happens in breath work or meditation, sometimes where if you lean into the pain, if you figure out where the instability, the discomfort is, there will be imagery, there will be feelings, there will be memories that will pop up. And those are usually keys to what happened inside, what happened to you to make that happen. Because when you're a little baby boy or girl, when you're 4 or 5 years old, you are pretty aligned. You are locked in, you're having fun, you're not afraid, you're not insecure, you're chilling, you're you. And an event through life, shit happens, next thing you know, you are feeling insecure, you know. And so pay attention to the imagery, because what happens is you might get memories, you might get flashbacks, and you can bring those to the table, let them go, just see them and feel them and let them be what they are, and go from there. This is what I've noticed. It's maybe it's different for other people, but when I've done intense breath work and meditation into this zone, the first chakra, the root chakra, insecurity, usually it taps into some places in my brain. A lot of times you don't even remember, or sometimes you don't even remember what you visualized after the meditation and breath work. It might just be gone. That happens too. It's just like sometimes you're just like traveling through thoughts and memories really quick. All right, and what I think is very useful as well is writing and visualizing, or not writing about this so you can identify, forgive, and forget traumas. This is why shadow work, and this is what is actually being proven by, oh wait, Saranda is calling in. Okay. All right, so let's see, Saranda's about to hop in. And so, hey Saranda, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can hear you well. Can you hear me? Is the music in the background too loud at all?
I hear you. It's kind of loud, but just don't worry. It'll be all fine. Right now, can you see my screen actually there too? I'm going to be talking with Saranda. Right now, I'm on my phone too, doing the Instagram, just going through a presentation. Can you see my presentation on the screen, Saranda?
Yes, you're in step 5, identify, forgive, and forget traumas.
Okay, cool. All right, so I'm just going to finish that really quick, and then we can just talk really. I've just been talking about the root chakra, insecurity, security, and then getting into the breath work here. I'll tap back into it. You can see the screen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I listened in a little bit before I requested to join.
Okay, cool. So you were listening a little bit. So yeah, I basically just did a quick little summary of what I've noticed in regards to what it feels like through breath work. And then I was on this step 5 with writing, or this could be referred to as shadow work in a lot of cases, and so I basically am done. I think I think I have one more graphic after this. Basically just dance and sport is the last part, and then step 5 is the writing. So I'm going to switch to my Instagram, dance and sport. I see those being very healing And so now, oh shoot, I think I was muting on my Instagram, but it's all good. So what we're gonna do now is I'm going to make sure I have my phone set up so I can see you too. It's all right if like I'm streaming you live on YouTube right now too. And boom, boom, there we go. I'm just gonna set up my phone here. How are you doing, Saranda?
I'm doing good. I have today off. I'm in downtown because I'm going to that event later, and I didn't want to wait for traffic to get worse. So I went to this really cute place. I just wasn't aware the music was going to be so loud here.
Yeah, it's kind of loud. It's totally okay.
The view is nice though.
Totally okay. So, here, I hear the Tame Impala.
What was that?
Is that Tame Impala music in the background, or what was that?
It was. I actually have it on my playlist. I just don't know the name. I'll check later.
All right. So now we're set up. Okay. So Saranda, your mic, it is kind of picking up feedback. I don't know, like maybe. What do you think? Are you on your computer?
Yeah.
Okay. I suppose it's not too bad. Maybe can you like up it at all?
I honestly, hold on, like, I'm unaware where the microphone. I think it's actually using the computer microphone.
Yeah,
Forgot my other headset in the car, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it might be picking up. That's fine. It's just picking up your phone cam or your computer microphone. All right. That's cool. All right. So let me back out of my presentation. That'll be okay. So what you can do? How about can you mute yourself if I'm gonna talk and ask you a question, and then yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay, perfect. So we got Saranda in here. I'm just gonna have to have you just manually unmute yourself when you talk, just because it does kind of loud. I don't know if my software can clean that up. It might be able to. We'll find out. But we got Saranda in here. I'm gonna go full screen action. I'm ready to hear from you. Know what's going on with you in this conversation today. It's not. It's going to be about insecurity, what we've learned, and what you have to share. Within what I just went through in my presentation was like healing steps, things of where you can feel in the body, you recognize where it's at, because the body usually has like indications, is what I recognize. But from you, I guess I would want to first obviously know your background, like who you are, a little bit about what you do, and what are your like your hobbies, your main like kind of priorities in life, if you don't mind. Just I want to we got to get to know Saranda too. So go ahead.
Sounds good. So I am natively Albanian. My family's from Kosovo. I was born and raised in Germany. Due to the war in the Balkans, so I know quite a fair share about like unbalanced root chakras, and also just like trauma in general and PTSD, not just like from experiencing it in family and environments, but also because it is one of my hobbies. Like healing in general is something that I'm like super interested in, because it's so helpful and so needed and so valuable. Like overall, I just really believe that quality of life is something that we don't even know yet how deep it can go. And then in terms of like profession, I mostly work in finance or operations in different kinds of industries right now, in manufacturing for aerospace and defense. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So hit mute for a sec. Hit mute for a sec. All right, cool. All right, so wow. Okay, so I want to kind of dive in a little bit more about what you were saying about like being from Albania, like a little bit of your past, if that's okay with you. And you said there was a war happening that was intense. I imagine, like you said, a lot of physical insecurity when there's like, there's violence outside and you're hearing explosions or like anything like that. I don't know, like obviously I'm not sure exactly what it was like. So, but do you mind kind of just explaining more a little bit like about that scenario, like growing up around what you did see and like how it felt in the family and in the home and stuff like that?
Yeah, so by the time that I was born in 1992, it was like the official start of the war, but like the pre-time war was already like pretty intense, like just like a lot of oppression, a lot of psychological like torture and like, arresting and torturing family members in order to get others to stop resisting like the oppression and things like that. So by the time that I was born, my family had already gone through like a lot of trouble or like a lot of conflict with the oppressing forces, and we actually ended up on pretty high on the wanted list, like with our family name. So by the time that my mom was pregnant with me, the first members of my family had to flee the country. Like it was way too dangerous. Basically, for a few years, they were like actively resisting, like working together, trying to like have it end and like just return to their normal life. Eventually, that wasn't really possible, or like they realized they're not gonna win and it's getting really dangerous, for their family. So my dad was actually one of the first ones who had to flee along with my uncle, and he fled by himself at first, and then my mom fled later on when she was about 6 months pregnant with me. So I didn't really experience a lot of like the war or like the situation there. But due to that, like I'm just like very familiar with like research done, for example, on like prenatal PTSD, because like since you're so connected to your mother, as an organism, it's like all those like hormones that cause trauma and PTSD, like all those stress hormones, and like the excessive frequency of that obviously has an impact on the newborns as well. And like that was actually found out during studies conducted on babies born to Holocaust survivors that were basically born with PTSD symptoms without having ever experienced anything, outside the womb. So, like, again, for me, it wasn't really experiencing the war there. Like, what it was is just like seeing the destruction and like the aftermath of that, like having to basically really like I remember the first few years when I was in school in Germany. Every summer break, we have like 6 weeks. We would go to Kosovo or Albania, depending on if people were still displaced, and just like help rebuild. And like after the war ended, thanks to America, like I remember like all these colonies and like bringing people back from Albania to Kosovo because it was safe again, and everything was like destroyed. So it was like for a few years it was a lot about just like helping rebuild, which was really hard because like everyone was still like extremely hurt and traumatized, and like there was just no room for that at all. So it's like what I've seen a lot is just like the aftermath of it, and like especially the older generation like being unable due to total lack of resources to ever really resolve any of that emotionally. I'm gonna mute myself if you want. You're muted.
Muted. All right, there we go. Whoa. Okay. No. So I know. Okay. So yeah, I've only read into this scenario a little bit. I don't know too much about it. I could actually maybe share my screen a little bit too, and we could talk about that too. But that's I know. So while your mom's pregnant with you, then your father and your other family members, some of them have to flee from Kosovo, right? And out of the war. Your mom's pregnant, 6 months to go. Then you're born, and obviously they are just coming away. They're coming to a new place, but still, like you said, there's the genetic memory. There's like obviously the trauma, and your mother's body, and the people that were connected to all you guys. And of course, it's like it just that transitions into the way that they're parenting, the way they're like now operating in their new lifestyle. And like you said, now when you're going back to rebuild, now it's rebuilding time, but everybody's just like, whoa, this was intense. Like, yeah, it's ingrained into the memory very deeply. And so yeah, I know you're saying right now my wife's pregnant. Our baby will be due in the next 2 months, and I can totally understand that. It's like we've been taking that as much consciousness into this as possible, like being doing like meditation when we can, and just like doing what we can to stay on top of it. But even you can tell when you're just like you're going through your emotional upswing sometimes, that it's probably going to influence what's happening inside of there. And I think they're certainly recognizing. I'm not sure what they've really proved with a lot of this yet now, but I know that there's certainly trauma that definitely does get passed down from what I've experienced in my own life, because you really get to unpack a lot of that through meditation, breath work, and like with psychedelic experiences too. And so it's there, like it's in our DNA. And I believe in like this family constellations therapies. They talk about it usually can be going back like 7 generations at a time. And so if you could heal something, then you basically have now healed like 7 generations forward. I mean, sure, obviously, sure, it can be corrupted again, but at least you've now theoretically you've have opened up the opportunity for that to be healed like 7 generations in the future or something like that. So when you were growing up, then did you feel like this really like now impacted the way you were living life? Were you just like not as sure? Did it affect like self-esteem with career or with like appearance or knowledge, or like what specifically, like what aspects of like your personality do you think it like affected? And did it like make you lean on different strengths or different like things that were making you successful, or like how did that kind of manifest in you throughout childhood and then leading into adult life?
I feel like it affected me in different ways, like the positive way that I feel like was a result of this upbringing was like due to their lack of like emotional sensitivity. I feel like I developed a oversensitivity, which like can be viewed as like bad too, but I honestly really appreciate that. I like draw a lot of understanding about the world through that. Like it's just like I've always been like more sensitive towards things that like no one in my family really cared about, like socially, morally, like whatever it is. And then I feel like in addition, like having grown up in between cultures where like pretty much each culture judges the way the other one lives, also like taught me to like always compare things. So I feel like I generally have a very analytical mind because like things just really didn't make a lot of sense. Like, one side is like do that and then the other side is like no, do the opposite, and like it's just like you constantly go of that evaluation of like, whose morals are right and why are people even disagreeing with each other. And then in terms of like negative impact, I want to say that I have a lot of like hyper independence as a result, as well as like hyper vigilance, which I think ties into like hypersensitivity. I think like the more because like with trauma and PTSD and like the general like imbalance of root chakras, it's a lot about like how overstimulated your amygdala gets and like over what time frame, like what the frequency is, and then like how strong those stimulations are. And I just feel like if it gets like inflamed basically to a degree, it's like it's just not naturally going to return without you putting in active healing work. um, yeah, I mean, mute myself.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So some things I'm curious about. Okay, so I want, if you in a second, when I pass back to you, I want to know a little bit more about what you're saying. Like when it comes to hyper independence, I think I know what you're saying there, but I just want to hear you explain, or like I just want to hear like kind of what your perspective is on that. But like you said, like so your amygdala is it's connected to the most ancient parts of our brains, the limbic system, right? And so it's like the fear, it's identifying like danger. It's the part of the reptilian brain. So as if you see a snake, like your amygdala is going to notice that before it registers like in your prefrontal cortex, and then it's going to like immediately evoke like a adrenaline response or something like that, right? Like so a lot of it is genetic, and so it becomes really ingrained into our unconscious mind too, and our subconsciousness, like. And so if we are having a traumatic experience, like if we say something and it's like we get a slap on the wrist, like theoretically, or if we do something that's not accepted, then that can affect that same zone, because it's like it's all just kind of like filtering through the same stuff. And so it can be it can be like minor traumas or major traumas, but like you said, if you're having like this intense amygdala response a lot when you're young, then it's gonna you're feeling a lot of hypersensitive moments in your life. You're feeling a lot of sensations, and like you said, so in your case, that's been a little bit of a strength because you've been able to be so attuned to a lot of it. But like you said, it's led to this like it can lead to the hyper independence and stuff like that too. So yeah, can you kind of tell me like what the hyper independence means, or any other thoughts on like the physiology of it too? Because I know that you probably have a lot of good perspective on that too.
Um, so in general, I feel like hyperindependence often comes from like hypervigilance, and hypervigilance comes from like experiencing an environment where there is no capacity for all of your needs or all of your expressions, and so you subconsciously learn to not have those, or that having certain expressions or being a certain way is dangerous in a way, because it doesn't get you the result that improves your situation. So I think it comes a little bit from there, and then basically learning that if you overread your environment and if you overanalyze your environment, you can basically take better care of a better future or like a better solution. And like I honestly don't have too much of an insight on it from the physiological perspective. But in terms of emotion, like emotional or energetic, I think it like really depends on like the early childhood years when your brainwave activities still like pretty low and like you're still very programmable. Like I think instilling a sense of safety then has like the biggest impact in regards of like feeling secure and safe throughout life, and like feeling secure even depending on others, and generally trusting the world.
Yeah, definitely. That's why. So like that's how I when I think of like insecurity at the most like quantum level, it's like not being able to trust the present moment. Or that's like how I kind of learned to understand it with my breathwork coach, is that it's like if you can't trust now, like if you're hyper visualizing everything, like am I okay right now? Am I safe? Like that's the most like quantum aspect of insecurity. And so oh, shit, what was I just gonna say? I don't know. I totally just fell out of my focus right there. But
Happens to me a lot too.
yeah, yeah, and so man, so that's what I think that's oh yeah, okay. So I've just kind of noticed that for me, I just think about it comes to can't trust the present moment, and I felt that a lot too. I'm not really sure. I'm sure that's just normal for a lot of us, because of what happens. It's just bound to happen. We're bound to just like they kind of call it like in a lot of psychological things. I think like to very like simply summarize it, they have like you have like this young like inner child anima phase, and then you have like the tragic era, like shit just happens, people start making jokes, you especially once you hit like 12, 13 years old, when you start being teenagers and you start getting smart and knowing how to tell like mean jokes or like insult people, then things start, at least it happens at that point. And it can happen younger, obviously, right? If you grow up in a situation where there's more trauma, but it's like we have this pre-tragic era where we're just like innocent, we're loving everything, and then we have the tragic era, and then we recognize that, we start healing in any way we can, or we avoid it, or we just like push it down and we don't get to the bottom of it. And so I guess now that's where I lead now to asking you about like what was like that the transition for you, like looking into taking it, taking it more seriously, or being like kind of the leader in your life with it. Like, did you always kind of have that? Like, you were looking at ways to stay on top of things, or did you feel like you had um, any sort of victimness around it? Or it sounds like you said like hyper independent sounds like you're more just like I will be in charge of this, or like what did that kind of look like for you?
I feel like it goes in phases. Like I feel like there's been a little bit of everything. Like definitely, you know, where like there's definitely a time where you're like, why does this happen to me? Why does my life have to be so much harder than another person, you know, that you don't really know everything about? But at the same time, it's like, I think like there was a lot of like, okay, no one's going to change this for me. It's like, this is life. Either, you know, you make it what you want or you don't. But then there was also like a lot of escapism where, you know, I tried to like control other things a little bit more, hoping that it would like compensate for the lack of control that I felt emotionally, or, you know, like lack of safety. Like it's like it's very silly, like, you know, when people try to like make a lot of money or like have a lot of friends or whatever it is that they tell themselves is going to make themselves feel better, but it's not really what's causing the feeling. It's like most of the time it's unprocessed emotions that you really need to address. And I think actually now thinking about it, the physiological aspect of it is a lot the breath. Like I know that my breathing is increasingly getting better in terms of like there's less disruptions. You know, when you like take a deep like a breath in and out, it doesn't go fully smooth. Like usually there's like one or two or how many, you know, like interruptions in your breath, and oftentimes those are like directly correlated to major trauma like throughout life. So it's like assessing the breath and like seeing how like the air travels through your body, I think is a really good way to see like how, you know, how high levels of hypervigilance versus like sense of safety really is.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what I've come to recognize a lot of that too with the breath work. I'm just like, wow, I can't believe how simple this can be when you just recognize that like you come into this world like breathing right away, and you know, you just like you start out being relaxed, and then you get thrown into like environments, or you have situations happen to you where you're having adrenaline spike, a stress response. And so the next thing you know, like you are breathing differently unconsciously. You're not even recognizing it. Most of the times we don't even know when we're breathing. If you do a meditation, when I first start out, I remember, and still it's like that. If I'm looking to count breaths, it's like when you're first starting out, you can barely focus on like 4 breaths in a row, and then it's like you're already thinking about something else, and then eventually you can work up and count more breaths. But what I want to share on the screen again is one of those graphics really quick about the what you mentioned, how the breath travels through the body. I know in yoga they talk about like the locks, and so I don't have like the locks on this diagram, but I have like this right here just talking about the overall summary of the chakras. And so usually what I recognize, I mean, all of these chakras are obviously always functioning together in some form or fashion, but what I recognize a lot of the times with insecurity, I like to just kind of boil it down to 1, 3, and 5, because in yoga they talk about like the locks being in these zones too. So like our throat, and then our solar plexus, like in our upper abdomen, and then down in the first one. So if we have like relaxation flowing obviously through all that, it's really nice. But I like to think about like when I'm taking the breath in, like I take it deep into the first root, into the root chakra, and then let the stomach expand, the rib cage in the third one, and then in the fifth one, if I can get more air into like my neck and into my head, because we have our sinuses are actually in our forehead too. So if you can get the air all the way up there, it's really useful for regulating our nervous system, because then when we take these deeper, slower breaths, then we can actually directly influence our biology and just be chill. We can relax for a sec, and it's so crazy. It's so powerful. So for you, like Surrounda, like why'd you initially start doing the breathwork stuff, and did you notice stuff like this, or like what did you discover when you started doing that?
Um, I started doing breathwork, or like I did the training because I felt like it was the most effective, or like the most like has the strongest results, direct results, because it's not just like a mental exercise, it is a physical exercise as well that gets like energy moving a little bit. And I honestly learned a lot during like that training. Like it really ties directly into consciousness. Like I remember we spoke about the one book that I read for that training once, where the author Stanislav Grof even like associates it back to like the wars that we fight and how all of those come from an inherent need for like spiritual rebirth. But since we don't know how to internalize those changes, we like externalize them and like fight the world, even though it's like an internal fight we're having that we, get to every now and then with our life. So that was definitely very fascinating to see that be brought into association. And then like what also was very, very interesting is reading like the experience reports from his clients, and a lot of them really do remember memories up until like prenatal states. Like one of the most fascinating things people were sharing in that regard, where when people basically as they were embryos would recall memories of like something like blackish entering like their womb water, like almost like poison, the way that they perceive it. And after checking back in with their parents, it turned out that their parents would smoke or drink during their pregnancy, and like basically using the breath to access emotions or memories that far was pretty fascinating.
No, it's so crazy. So what I've recognized is that our memory, and this is why I'm so like now that we're on the topic of memory, I'm really excited to see where this goes in regards to like Alzheimer research and other memory loss topics, because it's like I've noticed so anecdotally in my own experience, like you're saying, it's like you start to unpack everything, and you start rewinding backwards. And so through the breath work, through the meditation, you can, on the topic of insecurity or whatever it might be, is you can keep going back and like keep going back. So I can't, for in my cases, anecdotally, I have not been able to go that far back to like being in the womb yet, but who knows, maybe that will happen. But it's weird right now, I have like these simultaneous like stories in my life that are being healed. It feels like whenever I go into breathwork and meditation right now, there's like my 5-year old self, there's like my 11-year-old self, and there's like my 17-year-old self, and then more kind of like my 20s, or like there'll be kind of stuff. But I like, as I'm going through these sessions of like of meditation and breath work, it's not like I'm even really trying to take it there, but as I'm like feeling into the tension of my body more, it's like I will have these flashbacks or even dreams when I'm sleeping at night that are taking me back to these moments in history. And which is crazy, because like what's cool is that I'm also understanding that and you've heard this probably a lot too in these circles, that like the past and the future, they actually don't exist, they're illusions. The only thing that exists is right now. And so it's like as you're going through this process and healing things, it's like your entire perspective on those moments in your lives are actually like healing in real time. And so like those parts of your history are actually changing simultaneously. And so it's like you no longer look at that moment from you were 11 years old as like humiliating anymore. You look at it more as like a hilarious experience that like brought you to, a new understanding of who you are now. Like, what I'm saying, it's kind of like that. So that's so crazy, like what that's like for you when you've gone to that. Do you have kind of like these like visuals or like timeless experiences that happen with you?
Yeah, breathwork generally unlocks a lot of memories for me too, like things that I genuinely forgot, whether it's like good or bad. Like I remember the first breathwork class that I took, like where I just joined. I remembered so much from my childhood that I had fully forgotten, just like random scenes of like playing in the fields and like mixing herbal tinctures and stuff. Like I feel like I've been a little witch pretty early on and like very connected to nature, and like I forgot that for a little while. and things like that, where just like you do a few breathwork sessions and like you just remember, not just like remembering, you know, the visual or whatever, but like the feeling, like who you were in a way.
Yeah, I noticed like as an example, I can bring this up because it's really not even that crazy. But I remember, like for instance, around the time I was 11 years old, there was like a sleepover I had with friends, and they like woke me up one morning with like these like yoga balls that have handles on them, and they're just like smashing me because we were like 12. Like we would just like do stuff like that. We would like draw on people's faces or put whipped cream on their face or whatever, or hit them with the soccer ball. And so I remember like I was like one time with breathwork kind of going back into like, and I'm not doing this, like I'm not choosing to do this, it's just happening while I'm doing the breath, and I'm like kind of like reliving that feeling, like where it's just like, yo, I'm getting like, it's like I can't feel safe with my eyes closed. I'm just trying to close my eyes and go to sleep, but I was getting hit with like the ball. you know so I mean that's like that's what it can go into that level of depth. And so, man, it's so crazy that there's so much to learn and to unpack from all of that. So with you, so in that topic surround, okay, so I think we kind of got into a lot of it there. I'm curious, like what other big things you feel like, what is there, like some other huge game changing topic or like practice that has really shown you and allowed you to feel really secure, more secure, and like being your true authentic self apart from like breath work?
No, I would say like breathwork definitely had the biggest impact, and then things that I do that I think support like my expression and general well-being is like journaling, meditation, yoga, like generally just like connecting with the body. I feel like yoga is a really great way to do that because it like combines like stretching with breathing. Other than that, I've been actually thinking about trying like some more crazy things like ecstatic dancing, as well as EFT tapping, because those, or alternatively you know, the jumping kind of thing where you have like a rope, that or trampoline, because like that up and down movement is actually really good to get energy moving. And then ecstatic dancing is really good in terms of like supporting the throat chakra in a way, because like physical expression somewhat goes into that same energy field, and it's like a really important like determinator of how safe you are in your body.
Wow. Yeah. What's the EFT tapping? And then you're just saying jump roping too?
Yeah, jump roping or trampoline is like generally good to get, you know, energy moving through the body. Then ecstatic dancing is good because you're connecting to how you want to express yourself as opposed to like, you know, think about others. And then EFT tapping is like a somatic practice, also intended to release emotions in the body, and like it basically aims at stimulating the main lymphatic regions of the body, like such as here in the face, but also in the arms and behind the knees. And like I think on the face you do it like more gentle, and then on like the bigger body parts such as behind the knees you can like tap it a little bit more. But I haven't done it too much yet. But generally in this, like in these topics, or like in this healing space, it seems to have worked very well for a lot of people compared to like, you know, traditional talk therapy and all those things. Other than that, I do a lot of like bilateral stimulation that we also did before breathwork sometimes. I think like that is generally really good. Like anything that can get your brain hemispheres like balanced and synchronized, hugely in your favor, whether that's like listening to it, or also like listening to bilateral stimulation whilst trying to access certain memories or certain, you know, challenging experiences can be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know my battery is gonna die at 5%, probably like 5 more minutes.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, we could wrap this up. Um, yeah, I'll just comment on what you were just saying right there. The dancing, you're so right. Ecstatic dancing. I finally came to my own conclusion recently. I'm just like, I need to do more dancing. And because like I've recognized like at least like with like the tension and like the joint pains in your body and stuff like that, a lot of times those are the stuck emotions, right? And so if we are dancing, you can feel like where everything's tight at, and you can move it how you need to, and then you can and then obviously you feel more confidently expressing yourself physically. And like you said, that can help with like the throat region where you can express your truth more. And man, that's why I see really being like, I mean, I'm sure it's always been here. It's always been here, like dance fitness, like dance classes. It's always been here, but I feel like it's time for that really to be kind of almost like the leader of fitness. I see like in now they're in University of Sydney in Australia. They're always Australia. They love fitness, but I recognize they always do a lot of cool like health and wellness studies. And they just had one a couple months in February, I believe, where they proved they're like straight up dancing number one form of like fitness and exercise for mental health. Like it's the best at combating disease, and it's better than pharmaceutical medications like SSRIs with helping out with depression. Dancing, just moving your body and listening to tunes. It's better than like pharmaceutical medications for depression. So that EFT tapping, I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm gonna have to look into that for sure. That sounds really cool. So that's a lot of good. That's a lot of great info, a lot of perspective. Any other thoughts, Saranda? Thank you so much for what you've shared so far.
The last thing that I can think about that really helps me is like acupuncture, obviously to get like energy moving. Like there's certain blocks that I often struggle with my feet that I can't really resolve without like that kind of stimulation. And then also massage therapy, like physical body work, very very helpful, especially if you find somebody who really sees it like a healing practice like that. I think I've told you about my friend Russell, who's like a really amazing body work, and like whenever he gives me a massage, he'll like start at the leg and then just like rotate around, and once in a while he'll find something where it's like a knot or it's stuck. And it's very interesting as he works like through like a region in my body that is like not good. As long as he's like on that region, I will like mentally work through something that has been stuck within me that I wasn't able to resolve. And at the same time as I'm like mentally letting it go and resolving it, he physically resolves it and lets it go, and we both move on. It's very fascinating how there actually really is like that mental physical expression simultaneously.
100%, 100%. The way you're saying that has definitely, that's worked for me too. I don't know if it would be batteries app, but I want to say that before I forget. It's that I did what I've done a few times is that I will go. I do a lot of massage too because I've done lots of sports and everything, and I've done this probably 4 or 5 times where I take like a micro dose of mushrooms and then go into the massage. And it's crazy because your energy is like it's really active. And so when they're like getting into like the knots on your body, but just like you said, you're processing like everything, and like it's actually a little bit easier for them to like feel into like where the tension is, like because more of the tension kind of becomes magnified with like the mushrooms. Obviously if you're listening to this, be safe, be conscious, read into it, be safe. But it's actually one of the things I would never regret anyone doing is psychedelic mushrooms. Like I would not regret anyone, my grandma, if she was still alive, I'd be like, you should try that out, at least a microdose. It's crazy.
That honestly sounds so interesting. I may have to try.
Yeah, no, it's so good. And lastly, actually, what I really fascinating therapy that I don't even know if you call it therapy. One thing I've been working through with the body and the emotions is if you're in the shower, turn the lights off because sometimes we're very visual creatures. And so a lot of times when we can see, we just do things very subconsciously. But if you shut the lights off, we have to be like very conscious so we don't fall over or we don't trip or something like that. And so I will take showers in the dark and like just like recognize like, okay, here's my hands, here's the soap, and like that's like a really cool practice that I've worked with that. Obviously if you have windows and stuff, you can only get it so dark. But if you can get it dark, that's a very legit practice too.
No, honestly, that makes a lot of sense. I unfortunately have windows in every room. I cannot control the light in my house
Yeah, yeah.
or the noise.
We okay, so you probably gotta get going. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about like any project you're working on or anything else, or any bold predictions for 2024, or anything else you got going on before we end the call.
Honestly, I'm fully focusing on work. Like I work at a startup, so we're like massively growing in every possible way, and it's just like really rewarding and exciting. We're probably going to open a new facility, a way larger one. So like our operations are, scaling. Our team is scaling. We're probably going to raise another series later this year, grow a little bit more, hire more people. But it's a lot of fun. It's like we're in El Segundo, like the community there is very special, and my team is very special as well. Like very smart individuals, but with like the right intentions. We're trying to bring manufacturing back to the US because we feel like it's a big part of why society is the way that it is right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I can see that. You got a team around you. You guys are focused on making it happen. Startup, and you guys got all this positive energy. So that's really cool. I like to hear that. I appreciate you showing up. Next time we should talk another time, and we can dive into anything else. I want to actually perhaps get into what you know about like electromagnetic stuff, in regards to the Earth, and then perhaps astrology. I don't know. I would be down to talk into a lot of things, especially like what you feel really excited to share too.
Yes, that sounds great, and I'll make sure I have a better setting and mic next time. And I wish you all the best until then. I'm really
Thank you
glad
so
everybody's healthy, everything's going well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll have audio. Thank you for not hearing with the insecurity of it. That was the topic of the conversation, and so it's all good. It's just sound. Actually, I like the more organic, authentic flow of conversation anyway, and so it's cool. If we got some background music, some of the music sounded cool too. So thanks for that. Enjoy your event, and just go ahead when you're ready to bounce out. You can just leave the.
All right, it was good talking to you. Bye.
All right, see you, Saranda. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm not sure if we're still live on IG. Maybe we are. Boom, boom, boom. So, okay. All right. So there we go. Basically, we are killing. We got Vishwas. Yo, how's it going, Vish? What are you doing? So basically, those we went over. We talked about insecurity, how it manifests in the body, with what they're measuring with Western science, and then Eastern philosophy, especially with yoga. Ecstatic dance, right there, was the last thing that I shared. Dancing and sport, grounding in nature. Um, game changers, game changers for the mental health, and so pay attention now on YouTube. I was just live streaming right now. I'm still live streaming actually. I'm still live streaming right now, aren't I? Yeah, I'm still live streaming right now on YouTube. So I will make sure to share a lot of that info when it comes to the live streaming in the future. But that was cool. Saranda, very fascinating person. This girl, highly educated, lots of life experience, and definitely planning on bringing her more onto my show. And I'm going to do a lot more podcasts here because now we got the setup really smooth. Obviously, we work with what we have. It could always be better, but guess what? It can always be worse. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be alive and receiving and sharing, right? So I hope y'all have a good day. If you're still watching this, thanks for tuning in and stay tuned in. Subscribe. We got a lot of good info coming your way. Subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Ethan Etchart. We're here to really bridge this all together. Mental health and fitness, bring it together because it is all one and the same. It is all one and the same. It's time to reinvent what we know about healthcare and really bringing it inward, right? We are the creators of our experiences. We have the right to choose we have our final freedom. Remember Viktor Frankl, bro? In the maps, man's search for meaning, the guy that was in the Holocaust. What did he say? They can take every freedom from you but one, your attitude. Your attitude. And so, what do you choose to have as your attitude? What do you choose? What I choose is peace, satisfaction, gratitude, fun, bro. Yo, Juan Ov Diaz, who just hopped in, add me on Xbox. Text me your gamer tag. I got Xbox now finally. And but yeah, we're signing off. Thanks for checking in, everybody. We had a good podcast sesh. I'm just wrapping up. And take care, y'all. Have a good one. Instagram Live done, and Riverside Studio done.